As if this image by itself wasn't mind-blowing enough, I have got something to show you guys tonight in the historical imagery layers that is gonna blow your mind. It confirms that they know about this and that there are people down there now, whether it's the Chinese, whether it's us, whether it's the Russians, I don't know who, but there are people down there now investigating something under the ice that isn't just scientific in nature, meaning they're not just taking plant and animal samples. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, zooming out real quick, in the upper left, when you use Google Earth Pro, there's a line of tools in this upper left up here. One of them, next to the last, looks like a clock with an arrow going backward. If you click it, you get this time slider. And you can look at, and that's, by the way, why Google Earth Pro is the best tool for doing this kind of research. You can click back and forward through historical imagery of the same region over and over and over again. So you can go over an entire area and look for something and then click one button and you've got all new imagery from a completely different era to go back over again. That's why we have found so many things. Now, one of the real big smoking guns that you have found something important is when you see multiple layers of imagery over a very short time. This image is from 10/22/2012. Now, I'm going to click forward one layer. And I'm sure you're like, okay, what's the big deal? Okay, this is 11/5/2012. Now, sometimes the images aren't exactly lined up, meaning that the camera is just off a little bit. What you just saw disappear in front of your eyes is actually right up here. This is the same thing. This is the same Moai. You can see the mouth, you can see the nose, and you can see the ridge, but you can see so much more. Now, think about this for a minute. You have all of this satellite power, right, to go all over the world and take pictures? Why would you image the same remote region of Antarctica in, what is that, 23 days? 11/5/2012 from 10/22? That seems a little odd, don't you? That they would be so interested in this region if there was nothing there? Oh, but it gets better. Let me zoom out farther and go back forward. Okay, so let's get our bearings. This is the Moai. Look behind it now. You see, this is what they were trying to hide with the other image. There is more to be seen here than I can even begin to cover. You've got some type of a round platform image here. I'm not sure if this is part of this structure or if it's just some type of a covering for this platform here. But it gets better. Check this out. Look at this. Guys, this is not an avalanche. This is evidence of explosives being used right here. Because when you look at how this is laid out, this is not a slide. Somebody is doing some excavation work down here. Somebody is digging all this out, or even perhaps somebody from below is finding a way to get their way to the surface. The imagery changes here are absolutely shocking over these just few small weeks. Why would they have been so interested? What did they see? I know exactly what they saw. They saw the Moai head. They saw the Moai head, and they sent a satellite back over about 2 to 3 weeks later to re-image. so that they could supersede it. Now, I'm thinking they made the calculation. Oh, by the way, here's another great image. Look at this. You're telling me that's natural? That instead of the Moai head, they would show this image as the default image. You see, that's the other part of Google Earth Pro. When you click off the time slider, you're going to go to a default image. Now, this is the default image they use. Anything look familiar? There is something in this region they know about. There's something here under this ice that they are very, very interested in. Now, they don't even give a date for when this photo was taken. They say 5/10/2020, but that's just today's date. Apparently, okay, this is 11/5/2012, and then we get back to 10/22/2012. Now, there's even another deeper layer to this. And I should have covered it in yesterday's video, but I didn't. We're going to cover it now. The people of Easter Island, the Rapa Nui, the ones that built the Moai heads that we're all so familiar with, they have a religion, a cult, that worships the Birdman. Now, many of you will know what that means if you've been with the Antarctica investigation for any amount of time. We have shown so many images down here of birds. And let me give you a real good example of one real quick. This one specifically is the smoking gun for me that changes some information on some maps. That's not an accident. But what's the information on maps that this changes? Let me go to that real quick. These old maps refer to an area down here that says Psittacorum Regio. Now, historians have translated that to mean region of the parrots. I believe that's close, but it's inaccurate. Regio also means royal. Psittacorum does mean parrot, but I want to ask you guys a question. You see, they thought historically that they were talking about the emperor penguins. I don't think that's the case at all, because would you describe the bird on the left with the same word as the bird on the right? One that doesn't fly and swims in the ocean versus one that flies and hunts, and at least to my mind, I don't think parrots eat meat. They might, but I don't believe they're predator birds. But what about these two images? You see, the bird on the left is what they call a royal ParrotFinch. But for a royal ParrotFinch to be described down there, you would have needed a whole different ecosystem. Now, this image that I just showed in Antarctica looks a lot more to me like a royal parrotfinch. And I'm not saying that this image that we're looking at is an actual royal parrotfinch. I believe it's some type of an homage to one, because we see this over and over again. Let me show you something else in Antarctica that I've not ever shown before. It's a correlation. All right, you see this homage to the parrotfinch right here, right? Look just above it. Do you see this kind of nondescript image here that looks like almost humanoid? You have a head, a body, and two outstretched arms. Now, some would say that's not what that is. Well, it would be very odd to be able to show this twice, wouldn't it? This exact image twice. Let me show you something else. Whole different region. We have the head of a bird up here, very clearly. We have a bird getting ready to take flight here. We have a larger, what seems like a different type of bird, and a smaller one here. But what do we have here? A kneeling figure, arms outstretched. See, this is another one I got a lot of pushback on. It's clear that on the side of this mountain, what they've done is they've had some type of hydrophobic coating put on this, or what we're looking at is in relief, meaning these areas are higher, and that's why the snow hasn't stuck to them. Now look at this image here of this guy kneeling with his hands out. Okay? Let's go back here. Both in proximity to birds. You're saying that's a coincidence. As if that wasn't bad enough, check this out. This is the Birdman. This is the person I referenced that the people of Easter Island worship, Maquis. This is Thoth. This is Maquis from Easter Island, and this is Thoth, the Atlantean, the one that has been associated so much with Antarctic culture, widely believed that if Antarctica wasn't Atlantis, it was the home of the culture that built Atlantis. There are way too many things going on down there on that continent that we can see with our own eyes that just don't make sense to wind, ice, rock, and snow. I don't know how anybody can look at that and say that. That's not the case. Mythology from the Rapa Nui, by the way. The main stories of Rapa Nui mythology are that of the Hotu Matua, believed to be the first settler of Easter Island, and the Tangata Manu. The Tangata Manu is the mythology of the Birdman religion and cult which had creator god Maquis in competition with eggs to choose the Birdman, who would remain sacred for 5 months. So this is the tie. We have Moai in Easter Island, and we also have the worship of a Birdman in Easter Island. We have birds and bird imagery all over in Antarctica that we have found. Birds that are not penguins, something very, very different. And now we have very clear evidence. Let me show you another one too, by the way. Here's a smaller one. But there's a hidden one over here that I haven't shown very often. And it even takes me a minute to find it. Hold on. There it is. It's kind of hard to see with the light, but if you look dead center of your screen, you'll see an open beak right here, and you'll see a right eye, and you'll see a left eye. That should help a little. So, once again, I truly, honestly believe they know. Who they is, it's hard to say. It really is. It could be a conglomeration. It could be one country. It could be many countries. It could be a combination of them and a culture down here that we don't know about. But they are trying to hide it. And here at the end of the video, I'm going to probably do something I'm going to regret. But I'm going to ask you flat earthers just to consider something for 1 minute. Right about and for those of you that aren't aware, I have absolutely no use for flat earthers. They're a cult unlike I've ever seen. Could it be possible, flat earthers, that right about the time they were releasing Google Earth Pro to the public, and they knew about all this imagery down there, that they didn't want people to investigate, they didn't want people to look at closely? Would it be possible for them to have snuck a couple of guys, perhaps CIA guys, atheists like Eric Dubay, to use all sorts of psychological operations techniques to make you believe something like flat Earth that isn't true. Using all sorts of partial truths and things like, I can't perceive this spin, when everybody knows the only motion anyone ever perceives is relative motion. And it just cracks me up that people quote the Bible when the person that started all of this is an atheist and has ties to the CIA. One great way to keep a whole bunch of people from not looking at Antarctica is tell the whole world that it doesn't exist. Especially the people that would do the investigating. People like you and me. Let's give them some make-believe story like flat Earth, and let's send them down chasing that rabbit hole so that they don't look at what's really going on. Could that even be possible? Before we leave, let's look at one more thing. Some of you asked about the lines. We spent a lot of time correlating all of these Pentagons around the world, but the one I want to talk about is here on Easter Island. And once again, you have to find it in layers. In this entire region, almost completely devoid of trees, there is an area shaped like a pentagon, just like so many others that we have found around the world. And at this point, this one little tiny point, these lines converge. You can draw a straight line back to French Polynesia, where there's also a pentagon. And it lines up with this pentagon out in the middle of the Argentinian desert. The initial one that we found was here in Brazil. And let's see if we can get the right layer here. It has been a while since I have... There it is. Okay. Carved out of the jungle in Brazil is a pentagon, nearly perfect in shape, that is the exact same dimensions as the interior courtyard of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. Why would that be? So when you hear me talk, if you haven't watched this or you've not seen these videos, talk about the Pentagon networks, we found these locations just like this all over the world. They are everywhere. There's one in the Yucatan, D.C., they are all over the north, all over Europe, everywhere. We've even found them in Antarctica with no good explanation. So anyway, I will leave it there. Like, share, subscribe.